guys, welcome back to Days of Darkness, and welcome to my review of Friday the 13th, Part 4, aka the final chapter. Wink. But anyways, this came out in 1984, and it's starring Kimberly Beck, Eric Anderson, and Corey Feldman himself as Tommy Jarvis. It was written by Victor Miller and was directed by Joseph Zito. Now, I need to get my fanboying out of the way. I need to get my nerding out of the way because, as I've previously stated, this is by far my favorite Friday the 13th installment. I fucking love this movie. I think it is the perfect slasher. I don't think you can get any better than this as far as like slasher films are concerned. And don't get me wrong, I am aware there are plenty of phenomenal slashers out there. And I'm not going to act like this is a perfect movie. It's not. To be totally honest, I don't think a perfect movie actually exists, but that's a whole other subject. But to me, in this, you have all the key things you need in an amazing slasher. And those key things are done debatably the best I've ever seen them done. And those things are basically, they have all of the characters are memorable. Obviously some more than others, but they're all interesting. They're all given something to do. They're all given a little arc. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to act like it's Scorsese writing here or anything, but come on. I mean, some of the characters in this franchise are literally just bodies. And while a lot of them do end up being bodies by the end of this movie, you still get a decent amount of character work. Again, it's nothing incredibly detailed, but just the fact that they bothered to give these characters something to do and they're not just generic partied kids, that goes a long way with me, and I really admire that and I really enjoy that. Got some great fucking death scenes. We'll obviously talk about, that in the final section of this review. But man, I mean, Tom Savini's back in this movie, and this is the first time he's worked on this franchise since part 1. So he's back with a fucking vengeance too. I mean, some of the gore in this movie it's great. It's great. Unfortunately, this is it's noticeably cut down by the MPAA. I'll have a lot to say about that when it comes to part 7. We're way away from that, but it is noticed a little bit here. However, it doesn't take away from the overall impact of the deaths and the gore and the blood and all that amazing shit. And yeah, it's got everything you need. The teens are doing all the teen shit. They're doing drugs, having sex. Most notably, a very, very notable and memorable dance by Crispin Glover, who plays Jimmy in this. And yeah, man, just overall, I can gush about this movie forever. And this is the start of the Jarvis trilogy, which to me, that in and of itself should be a pretty big deal for this franchise. But not only that, but all the previously mentioned things. And I'll get into what the Jarvis trilogy is for. I mean, if you're watching these reviews, I would imagine you at least know a little bit about it, but who knows? Maybe you don't. Maybe this is your first time watching the Friday the 13th franchise, and holy shit, you're in for a ride if it is. But anyways, I'm gonna stop gushing about this so much. Just know, obviously, this is a recommendation from me. It's the best Friday the 13th entry in my opinion. And yeah, without further ado, I'm going to try and not ramble for 7 minutes. But we are going to spoil the shit out of this movie. On to the spoiler section. Alright, spoiler time. Your ass has been warned. Now, we start off this movie again with a fucking recap. I try to put myself in the viewpoint of someone watching this movie in 1984 or whatever year it was made, especially for the sake of reviewing them. So I get why they put I mean, these movies are coming out a year apart. For some kids who go and take their date to see this because hopefully they'll get laid, They've never seen a Friday the 13th movie, so they have no idea what the fuck's going on. For some people who have watched the previous three, in this case, they might just not remember certain things. So I get why they put them in there, why they put the recaps in there. But for someone who's watching these movies back to back, obviously I'm watching them about 2 weeks apart, so it's not horrible. But I mean, I have gunned this franchise just back to back to back to back to back, all in like a couple days once. I really like these movies. So in that case, it can get a little annoying. It's not like a slight. I don't consider it a flaw because it's really not part of the actual movie, but it is a little like, all right, come on, I fucking get it, man. But you know, again, that's someone from that's coming from someone watching these with a modern lens. But anyways, so after that, we get our opening credits, and then we get our two kills to open up the film. I've never. I don't want to say I haven't noticed it because I've noticed that there's consistently two deaths in the beginning of each Friday, at least up until this point. I can't remember exactly what happens in part 5. I can't remember if there's a recap, and I can't remember if there's like two opening deaths just to set the tone. But parts 1 through 4, they all got it, and I think it's a really cool tradition. I really like just immediately like, okay, motherfucker, you're in a horror movie. It's getting real right off the bat. And I would go as far to argue that these two opening kills are probably the best opening kills in the whole franchise. So what it is, again, we pick up same as part 2 to part 3. We pick up right where part 3 left off, and Jason is dead. And he gets carted off to a hospital. He gets taken to the morgue because obviously they assume that he's dead since he had a fucking axe in his head. He's not dead, but he gets taken to the morgue, and we meet Axel and Nurse Morgan, and we. Axel is a fucking sleazebag, and I love him for it. Like, the very first thing you see is the paramedics taking him to the morgue, and Axel like is signing some shit, and I think he's eating like a sandwich or a donut or something. He's eating something, and he just plops it right on Jason's chest. Just doesn't give a shit, and he just it's just funny, and he's a complete fucking sleazeball too. He's talking about I think he got one of the other victims from part 3. And he was like, yeah, a real cute girl. And I think the doctor's like, or the EMT is like, you mean was? And he goes, well, you know, she still is, and goes into a little more graphic detail that I won't get into here. But he's a fucking sleazeball, slime bag, fucking douche. But he's very memorable, and for my fucked up sense of humor, he's very funny. But then we get Nurse Morgan, who's Axel's squeeze, and they end up hooking up, or attempting to hook up, right next to Jason's dead fucking body. Pretty ballsy move, and then Jason's hand fucking, you know, flops out of the sack that he's in, or under the flaps. His hand comes out from under the sheet, and it kind of grazes Nurse Morgan's thigh. And I can't blame him, because Nurse Morgan is very, very, very attractive, even if you're a undead revenant fucking, you know, murderer. I mean, hey. But anyways, so she gets obviously spooked all living shit, and runs out of the room. We get some great dialogue from scared Axel. Holy Jesus, jumping Christmas shit. I love this movie. A lot of this is just gonna be me gushing. I don't care. But yeah, so she ends up storming off, and we get our first kill, which is Axel. And holy shit, what a way to start it out. You know what? Fuck it. I usually talk about this sort of stuff in the kill of the film section, but just to set the tone, Jason comes out of the icebox, takes a fucking hacksaw, starts just sawing into his neck, and then turns his head 360. Oh wait, 180 because he doesn't go all the. He turns his head around. He fucking breaks his neck and basically rips his fucking head off. I love you. I love you. Fucking Friday the 13th Part 4. Holy shit. Anyways, and then he goes and kills Nurse Joy and her not Nurse Joy. Where did I get Nurse Joy from? I keep wanting to call her Nurse Joy. Nurse Morgan ends up going to kill her, takes a scalpel and just goes right down her fucking chest. Again, another really brutal one. They got a little cut down by the MPAA, but you get the overall effect. It's pretty fucking brutal. Tom Savini, right there, already his job is done, but we got a whole lot more. But anyways, I just spent 6 minutes talking about the opening 2 kills. I like this movie a lot. But anyways, so we get introduced to the Jarvis family, consisting of, I wrote the names down. Obviously, I know Tommy Jarvis. We got Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman, Trish, and Mrs. Jarvis. I looked up on IMDb. Doesn't look like she has an actual name. She's just credited as Mrs. Jarvis, so there we go. But yeah, we get some really interesting stuff there. Miss Jarvis and Trish are on a jog, and they're basically hinting that she's recently divorced, and I mean, you never see a dad or anything like that, so pretty interesting stuff. And as a little subtle, you already get, obviously Tommy Jarvis ends up being very important to this franchise, and right there you already get a little bit of intertwining between Tommy and Jason. That's the fact that both of them have a lot of fucking daddy issues. And obviously Tommy, like, neither of them it's really alluded on. That's more extended universe shit that I know about, but I won't be touching on that because it's not in the movie. But anyways, even though I just did. Leave me alone. But yeah, so we get introduced to them, and again, much like I stated in Your Next, having a familial element to a slasher film, or really any horror film, it proves to be very effective. You know, I mean, when you see like a fucking, just a bunch of random kids, I mean, the random kids are typically friends and shit like that, so, but there's no real emotion behind it. And when a family is threatened, I mean, that's like one of the most sacred, that's one of the most sacred things in human life, is your family, typically. So having that be directly threatened by a evil force is always very, very effective. So really glad they decided to put a family in here. And we also get our random teens. I don't like, I mean, I just say that to say it, but again, like I said before, all of these characters are pretty fucking memorable. You get, they're all, you know, driving down to their lake house. Excuse me. They're all driving down to their lake house, and we get Sarah, Doug, Samantha, Paul, and my favorite of all of these kids, we get Jimmy and Ted. I think everyone who loves the Friday the 13th franchise adore these guys. And looking back on the documentary of this movie, or at least I watched the Crystal Lake Memories, and I rewatched the section with that, you know, talked about Part 4, and a lot of their stuff was improvised. Both actors were pretty good at improv, and holy shit, dude, they they are very, very good at improv. We get the you broke up with BJ Betty, the BJ Betty, and he's like, I know. And it's like, he's like, well, you didn't treat her right, and he's like, I did, I treated her right, and it's so like, Crispin Glover's character is so sex starved, and so like he even just like puts his hands in his head. He's like, God, I'm horny. Like, he's so fucking, it's just great. They're so fucking funny. And then obviously we get the infamous, you know, him running it through his computer, which is a 6-pack of, it looked like Budweiser, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, he's in there and he's fucking typing away, and he goes, oh. And then Jimmy, Crispin Glover goes, well, give it to me straight, Doc. What is it? And he goes, Ted's like, well, it says you're a dead fuck. And he's like, a dead fuck? What do you... Oh man, I'll stop gushing so much about them, but they are, there's multiple moments in this movie where they're able to showcase how good they are at improv, and damn, just great stuff from those guys. Easily my favorite, like, I guess, disposable characters in the Friday franchise. I love those two. And both of their deaths are pretty fucking wicked too, which we will get into. But not only that, we get Samantha and Paul, which their relationship is kind of, it's pretty interesting. Their relationship kind of hits a little speed bump when we get introduced to the Doublemint twins, who are very, very pretty ladies, mind you. But so Paul's a little bit distracted, and he starts dancing with one of the twins, and Samantha doesn't like that, and that, leads to her storming off and meeting her demise. And it's pretty crazy, like, and that's what I mean. It's like it's nothing terribly interesting, like, the little, like, oh, I'm a jealous female and all that shit. It's like, it's nothing like terribly interesting, but it's just the fact that they put forth enough effort to, like, give these kids a legitimate reason to storm off and get killed, and they gave these kids a legitimate just legitimate character traits. It's just really cool. Also, we get Sarah and Doug, who, like, they're the little cutesy couple. They're kind of flirting with each other. They're not really a thing yet. And Sarah's I can't remember if they established that she was a virgin in the beginning of this movie, or if she just isn't very experienced, but she's obviously a very goody two-shoes type girl. So, you would think just instinctively, okay, she's the final girl. But her and Doug end up bumping uglies, and then they obviously meet their demise after that. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ramble a little more about this. I love these characters. I think they're, like, perfect slasher characters. They're not, like, overly fucking, because you really don't need a lot of backstory in a slasher film, but the fact that it even gives you just a little bit of it, I think it adds to it a lot. And when these characters do die, obviously you're not, like, super emotionally impacted or anything, but there still is a little more weight to it. It's important to have characters that are relatable, funny, in some cases just you fucking hate them. It's important to have that in any type of movie, really. You want to be invested in your characters. But yeah, I will stop rambling about that. But overall, this ensemble of characters is just great. But anyways, we have one more character to talk about. And actually I want to talk about Tommy for a second. Like I said before, Tommy Jarvis, part of the Jarvis family, ends up becoming a very, very important part of this family, or of this franchise. And he he's a really cool, nerdy kid in this. He's very innocent, obviously. There's he's very innocent. He's sleeping, and these kids are staying in the house right across from, the Jarvis house. And he sees Samantha and Paul getting ready to get it on. And as any, like, 11-year-old boy, I can attest to this, as any 11-year-old boy would do, he's just he's like, oh, he's like freaking out because he's seeing boobies. And there's another thing where he walks in on them, like, skinny dipping, and well, not walks in, but he walks up to the lake, and they're all skinny dipping. And he said, God, I'm kicking myself that I don't remember this, but he's like, he's driving off with Trish, and I love Corey. Like, his performance in this is great, even before he becomes all fucked up at the end of it. But he's like, pretty fine pair of patootsies, huh? Or something like along those lines. He's just hilarious. He's a big horror nerd too. He makes a bunch of masks, and, like, he, is he's experimenting with special effects and has some phenomenal work for an 11-year-old kid. Obviously, take that with a little grain of salt, but still, it's pretty cool to see, like, a nerdy little kid in one of these movies. again, I think it's the first time we had a little kid too, which again goes along with the familial thing. But I mean, shit, having like a kid in one of your movies that's about fucking slaughtering, teenagers. I'm like, is Jason gonna kill a kid? He doesn't, but yeah, man. And so Tommy's fucking great. Trisha's cool. Trisha's a really cool final girl. I like her bond with Tommy in this. They go out of their way to show that she's very, very protective of him and is even willing to sacrifice her life for him. Doesn't end up having to really sacrifice her life, but she's willing to do so, which is always it's a nice little brother sister bond they got going. Then you got Rob, who's actually related to one of the characters all the way from part two, which is pretty cool. It's a nice little way to kind of tie everything together in these movies. I like continuity. I like when filmmakers pay attention to that stuff. So Rob's hunting Jason and is not successful. Jason ends up getting the better of him. But yeah, man. And speaking of Jason, we need to talk about Ted White as Jason fucking Voorhees. I love Kane Hodder, and this is where people are gonna fucking freak out. I adore Kane Hodder. I think his portrayal of he is Jason Voorhees. There's no fucking doubt about that. I don't like to say like, oh, this is the best Jason. I don't, because I think every actor has their own spin on it, at least in their earlier films. And for Ted White, just watching interviews with him, he approached this as an acting gig. He wanted to take this seriously. It was another. He says it was just another job, but it's a job that he takes seriously. And he wanted to be fucking terrifying. And what you get from that, another big reason why this is my favorite Friday the 13th movie, I adore his portrayal of Jason. I just think there's something, when you're not allowed to speak in a movie, in a role, I mean, right off the bat it becomes more difficult for most actors and actresses. And the way he carries himself as a hot blank slate hockey mask killer, it's fucking great. I mean, I just think he does a phenomenal job. He's extremely physical. You can just sense there's like an anger about him in this role. It's so good. I don't know how to really describe it. You have to just watch it. Like, watch the first three, which take nothing away. Well, Jason's not really in part one, but as like a killer. But watch part two and part three, and then watch four. And there's just something different about it. It is just a very visceral element to his performance that I really, really, really enjoy. So props to Ted White. And yeah, I think I've pretty much rambled and touched on everything that I would like to touch on in this movie. Obviously, like I've said before, I am not going to just beat by beat talk about the plot of this movie. I want you to experience this for yourself. Obviously, I'm so spoiling it for you. But, I mean, in this case, it's a slasher film. You know people are going to die. Come on. But anyways, let's get into our final section of the film, our section of the review. Arguably my favorite part. Let's get into the blood, the guts, the gory bits. Let's get into our kill of the film. Among several reasons for my love of the final chapter, it has a very distinct advantage among all of the other ones, and that's the fact that, as I've previously stated, Tom Savini is in charge of the special effects and the makeup, and man, does it show. Parts 2 and 3, I'm not gonna act like their gore looks like shit or anything like that. It doesn't. I think I honestly, part 2 probably has one of my favorite kills in the whole franchise, with the axe going in the face of the dude in the wheelchair and all that shit. But part 4 just stands out. I mean, Tom Savini has a knack for just making shit look real. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just something about his makeup and his effects and his blood and his guts that really just kicks a slasher in the high gear for me. Obviously, he's not the only fucking amazing effects guy out there, especially at this time in the 80s, were fucking littered with flashers. Ooh, that too, but littered with slashers. But man, Tom Savini is just a legend, and this is one of his best works as far as special effects and stuff like that is concerned. But anyways, so thank you, Tom Savini. Now on to my kill of the film. First of all, honorable mentions. It was pretty. It was pretty hard picking the best kill of this film because, like I said before, and I've described already, the Axel kill in the beginning is one of my favorites of all time. It's just so fucking brutal seeing that fucking hacksaw just dig into his neck and he just twists his fucking head around. Brutal as all hell, and I love it. You get Jimmy Crispin Glover's death, where he's going up. This is he's post coitus. I'm gonna get that in every single one of these reviews, motherfucker. I'm gonna do it. But anyway, so he is just got done rubbing it in Ted's face that he just got lucky with one of the Doublemint twins, and he's going down. He's looking. She says she wants to go again. She wants to go for round 2, and he's looking for a corkscrew. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't see any wine bottles. So I was like watching it back this time, and I'm like, why the fuck does he need a corkscrew? What kind of shit is this guy into? But nonetheless, maybe there just was some bottle of wine that I didn't see. Who knows? But anyway, so he's looking for a corkscrew and he can't fucking find it. He's like, he's looking around, and our first little hint of Jason having a little bit of humor about him, Jimmy's looking throughout the drawers and he's like, Ted, where's the damn corkscrew? And you just see his hand on the counter, and Jason just fucking slams a corkscrew right through his hand, and that's part 1 of this kill. And fucking Crispin looks down. Oh, Jimmy. I keep calling him Crispin Glover. It's Crispin Glover, damn it. So Glover looks down at his hand getting mutilated by the corkscrew, and he looks up, and Jason just takes a hatchet, boom, right in his fucking face. Absolutely brutal fucking kill. You see it just pow right in his damn head. Great stuff. Yeah, I like blood and gore. But anyways, there's plenty of other ones. You get Samantha out on the raft. She's all pissed off at Paul, so she's like, what does anyone do when they get pissed off? They just get naked and they swim. Slashers. But anyways, not complaining. But so she's in this raft and she's just kind of, bumming out, and Jason comes up from under the water, fucking just runs his machete right through the raft, and fucking just, it looks so damn killer in her face. People like to make fun of the face she makes. She's just like, I'm like, I would love to see you look fucking graceful as all hell and just beautiful when you get run through by a machete. That's a brutal kill, though. You get a bunch of blood spurting out of her back. Good stuff. And Ted gets a knife in the back of the head. One of the Doublemint twins gets thrown out of a fucking window, and just all this crazy shit. And Paul probably has the most painful death, especially if you're one of the fellas watching this. He's out there looking for his now slaughtered girlfriend out in the water, and Jason comes up with a harpoon gun, gets him right in the fucking dick. Just right in the dick. It's like, come on. Fucking, I'm obviously a big blood and gore guy, but there's something about someone getting their fucking dick cut off, or their fucking, ladies too, it's much more rare, but anytime there's any vaginal mutilation, shit like that always is kind of but for me. But that and stuff with the eyes too. The eyes not nearly as much, but every once in a while there'll be a good eye kill, and I'll just be like, yeah. But so many fucking amazing deaths in this. Probably the only like honestly lame one is Mrs. Jarvis. It's pretty clear that she dies, but it's just she's like walking around and she walks into the camera and she just goes, and you get nothing. You get no aftermath. You get nothing. She's just gone, which is spooky, but you know, come on. It's Friday the 13th. I want to see some heads get lopped off. But anyways, but for me, taking a page out of Part One's book, I think the death of the film, the kill of the film, goes to Jason. Part one, Pamela had my favorite death in the film, and we're going full circle. Jason's death in this movie, and it's called the final chapter for a reason. They intended on this being the last one, like ever. They left it a little open-ended with Tommy possibly being the killer in future installments if they decided to make more, but they wanted Jason to be fucking dead. And holy shit, he is dead by the end of this. Trish knocks his mask off, and Tommy thinks of an idea to shave his head bald just to kind of confuse Jason and make him think he's his younger self or something. I don't know, but it works, and Jason's kind of like mesmerized for a second. And Trish knocks his mask off, and we get that great makeup from Tom Savini. His goal was to basically make an older version of Jason from Part 1, and he succeeded because it looks fucking great. And man, Tommy just fucking takes a machete and just drives it right in the side of his head, and you see it go like about in the middle of his face. This machete just thunk right in there, and it's so brutal. And then Jason just falls, and the machete just lands on the ground. You see his head just slide down. It's fucking killer. But Jason's still twitching, and so Tommy takes that machete out of his fucking head and just keeps hacking at him. You don't see any of that, but it's very implied. But just hearing that thud of a machete into someone's flesh is fucking brutal. But man, just having that, I think what did it for me was just seeing his head just slide down the fucking machete. Absolutely brutal kill, and it is my undisputed kill of the film. Well, guys, that's gonna do it for the final chapter. My absolute favorite entry in this whole franchise. I fucking love it. It's a great one. I highly, highly recommend it. Definitely check it out if for some reason you haven't. But that'll do it, man. Next week we're gonna be talking about Wolf Creek. It was recommended from me by my good friend, or I should say requested. It was requested for me to review this by my friend Keandre, and it's a rare instance of me having not seen this. I've never seen Wolf Creek. I started it once and then just got totally distracted. So I've never seen this, and it's very exciting. I haven't really been talking about films that I haven't seen before. So yeah, man, it's gonna be fucking killer, and I can't wait. Well, guys, that'll do it. This is gonna be a pretty long review, and thank you if you've stuck around. But damn it, I love Part 4. But anyways, guys, that'll do it for today. Take care of each other. Keep watching horror. All right, peace, guys.